Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Rekha Mehta. I have completed Doctorate in Tourism Management from IGNOU. Currently, I am working as Associate Professor in the Department of Travel and Tourism Management with DAV Centenary College, Faridabad. In the past, I have worked with various colleges of repute in Delhi and NCR. So today I am going to teach you about the task analysis, and objectives of the topic are to understand the significance of task analysis as a human resource development tool. Apart from that, we also need to learn how the task analysis of key jobs is carried out, and another objective of the topic would be to use the task analysis for improving the performance of individual employees and firms. Now we need to discuss what is task analysis. Generally, task analysis is used to define the most important tasks in an organization. They are rated by determining the frequency of the task performed by incumbents. Generally, task analysis contains background information of respondents. It also lists the job tasks with the associated rating scales. So we do have the rating scales in an organization for rating the performance of an employee. Participants are generally the supervisors, and most of them are involved in the process of performing the task. If we look at it in a broader form, a job constitutes many tasks. Job analysis or task analysis is a proper consideration. Task analysis is popular in consideration for human resource planning, and organizations are opting for task analysis to find ways of describing tasks, performance appraisal, and employee motivation. Henceforth, one can say that task analysis is utilized for human resource development. Generally, this is the first step to most human resource functions like HR planning, staffing, training, performance management, health and safety, rewards and recognitions, employee engagement, and legal compliances. A job analyst toolkit comprises of observation, questionnaire, and interviews to get these data points. The data sources which come in handy for job analysis are the job participant, the supervisor or the manager, the former job holders, the subject matter expert, industry resources, as well as the professional organizations. Two models characterizes the traditional approach to task analysis. The analysis is carried out by the management with the help of experts, and both the models are similar and helpful in analyzing the semi-skilled and skilled workers. The British model emphasizes analysis in terms of certain activities for which the job holder is held responsible. The American model has an emphasis on the competencies needed for the job. Elaborating the task analysis further, it is a systematic process of studying and gathering detailed information related to the operations and responsibilities of a particular job. It is the foundation of most human resource practices. Detailed information regarding a job would entail collecting data points under the following broad headers. The first is job description, that is duties and responsibilities, working conditions, machines and tools requirement, social and relationship factors, and decision making authority. The point number 2 is job specification, which consists of qualifications, experiences, certification and licenses. Apart from that, it also consists of the psychological characteristics and the social characteristics. The traditional approach to task analysis is considered to be inadequate when it is applied to managing the jobs which are complex in nature or the jobs in public system that are characterized by the complex responsibilities. Grouping or teaming the task which are increasingly emerging as a way of work in task analysis industry. There is a comprehensive understanding of task analysis which is being defined by the various scholars and the various authors. So there are different approaches to the task analysis. According to Stephen P. Robbins, task analysis is an activity or an element. A job element is a unit into which the work can be divided. A task is generally a distinct set of activities carried out for a distinct purpose. For example, room rent costing is a task of the front office executive in a hotel, whereas a duty consists of several tasks. For example, the front office executive duty in a hotel would include meeting and welcoming the client and explaining the hotel's features and its surroundings to the guest, whereas a position would refer to one or more duties performed by one person in an organization. There are at least as many positions as there are workers in the organization. Vacancies may create more positions than employees. It is a type of position within an organization. For example, a hotel may employ a dozen front office executives, then there are a dozen positions, but there would be only one job of one front office executive. Going further with this topic, I would like to elaborate it further. Task analysis can be defined as the process of identifying the task of a particular job in a particular organizational context by analyzing the activities, discrepancies, establishing the performance criteria, determining required competencies. This definition by the Tavistock School indicates the following guidelines for successful task analysis. Analysis should be undertaken only after understanding a particular organizational context which is involved. Point number 2 is the job should be broken down into specific activities performed and expected to be performed by the job holder or incumbent. Point number 3 is the activities should be grouped into tasks. A is a set of related activities, whereas the function that makes a distinct contribution to the organizational goals. Point number 4 consists of performance criteria, and they are indications that needs to be established. Point number 5 is the competencies required for the practice of each task that should be identified before carrying out the task. Point number 6 is the discrepancies between perceived and actual performance and between importance attributed and importance reflected in the time spent should be identified. So, we are going to discuss what are the various usages of task analysis. So, task analysis is utilized in several manners by the organization. The first is selection and placement. Second is work planning. Third is performance appraisal. Fourth is potential appraisal. Fifth is employee development. And this point number 6 is team building. Elaborating it further, when it is classified, the point number 1, selection and placement. Under this, the better recruitment and selection devices can be prepared on the basis of a task analysis, especially competency analysis. Competency analysis can also help an organization to place people in jobs in which they can be more effective, such as matching it with the people. Point number 2 is work planning, which includes the following: setting the individual task for a specific period, helping a job incumbent to decide the priorities of tasks, minimizing the overlap between the jobs, neglected tasks in a work unit, planning the delegation, and job enrichment. Under selection and placement, the better recruitment and selection devices can be prepared based on the task analysis. The competency analysis can also help an organization to place people in job in which they can be more effective, where they match with the right set of people. Work planning would include the individual task for a specific period, helping a person to decide priorities of tasks, minimizing the overlap between the jobs. If there is any neglected task in a work unit, planning the delegation as well as the job enrichment. In performance appraisal, the negotiated tasks and activities are to be performed. Evaluation by the self and the supervisor of the standards of task performance, both process and outcome effectiveness is measured. Analysis of factor may help and hinder the task performances. Potential appraisal will include the preparation of a system based on the competency analysis and actual work. Point number 5, employee development will include feedback on strengths and weaknesses, performance counseling, training. Point number 6 is building, especially the better understanding of each other, locating areas of task conflicts and dealing with them, building linkages and mutuality between the jobs. There are various usages of task analysis which may be useful to the organization and the individual employees in several manners, such as the first criteria consists of selection and placement. The point number 2 would be planning for the work. Point number 3 is performance appraisal. Point number 4 is potential appraisal. Point number 5 is employee development. And point number 6 is team building. Now we'll discuss each topic in detail. So, the point number 1 is selection and placement. Every organization looks for the best human resource. So, out here, selecting and recruiting the best human resource is the need of the organization. So, therefore, the better recruitment policies and selection devices are prepared on the basis of the task analysis, especially competency analysis, under which we categorize the work according to the various competencies required for performing a job, or it may also be classified on the basis of the different skill set that may be required for performing the job. Whereas the competency analysis will help the organization to decide to place people in the jobs in which they can be more effective, such as matching the criteria or the skill set with the desired qualification or the desired experience. Let us take an example of a computer engineer wherein they are required to learn various languages and coding for performing the task in the future. So that defines their competency. Whereas in the hotel industry, a person may be working as a chef or as a food and beverage server or in the housekeeping or in the front office. In all the departments, their competency level has to be different. Going ahead with the point number 2, that is work planning, which will include the following, such as setting the individual task for a specific period. Let us say in the hotel industry, we keep the room cleaning scheduled for 30 minutes. Under that 30-minute task, that person should be able to clean the room and it should be made ready and handed over. Right? So that is one example that can be quoted here. Point number 2 is helping the job incumbent or to decide the priorities of task. So out here we divide the cleaning of the room into the various task lists, like what is to be carried, what is to be done at first. Is it the removal of the dirty linen, or is it the cleaning of the room, or is it the cleaning of the washroom, or placing the supplies? So we train the housekeeping personnel to divide the work into the various segments. Point number C out here is minimizing the overlap between the jobs. Certainly overlapping is not required, wherein a person may be getting tired while performing the job. So we train them to do the right work by following the right procedure. Point number D is neglected task in a work unit. There could be a possibility that the person may not be performing the work as per the required standard. Therefore, we inculcate the process of performance standard, productivity standard in the hotel industry, wherein the job performer is required to perform the job as per the desired performance level. Next point is planning the delegation. If there's an occupancy of 90% or 95% in a hotel, one needs to plan the work in advance. So that's why planning process may require the cleaning agents as well as the cleaning equipments. So we need to plan it in advance. The next point is job enrichment. The job can be enriched by providing the various factors, by adding the various factors under this. Next is the performance appraisal, which is inclusive of negotiated tasks and activities which needs to be performed. Next is evaluating the self as well as the supervisor of the standard of task performance, both process and outcome effectiveness. Just now we have discussed the requirement of standard operating procedure, productivity standard, or the level of performance, the level of cleanliness or level of work, or maybe the learning outcome that may be required for performing the job in a proper manner. Next point here would be analysis of factors which may help or hinder the task performances. Until or unless the job incumbent knows that how to perform the work in a proper manner by following the right procedure, it may result into the hindering the process or slowing down the process. Point number 4 out here is the potential appraisal, wherein one has to include the preparation of a system which is based on the competency analysis and the actual work. So we are able to determine the various competency level of our employees when we make the cross check. So these days the companies hire the people based on their competency as well as based on their skill. So it has become a requirement of today's recruitment of today's selection culture, modern selection culture, wherein the job seeker should have a certain level of competency or a skill or a skill set mentioned in their resume. Next point here is employee development, which would be including the feedback on strengths and weaknesses. Certainly, we need to apprise our employees regarding their strength so that they perform in a better manner. At the same time, we also need to draw their attention towards their weaknesses so that they improve their weaknesses and become a strength to the organization. Next is the performance counseling. If the employee is not performing the work as per the desired standard, in that case, the employee needs to be counseled as per the requirement of the performance or the performance standard or productivity standard set by the organization. Next point out here would be training of staff. So it is important that the staff has to be trained, be it an introduction of a new machinery or new equipment in an organization. The staff member has to be trained regarding how to make an optimum utilization of that equipment. Next out here is building, that is specially better understanding of each other, as well as locating the areas of task conflict and dealing with them. If there is any conflict between the people while they are performing the task, so that task conflict needs to be sorted out as well as dealt with so that it does not result into the deceitful environment for the employees. And it is necessary that the organization as well as the employee understand each other, then only they will become the strength of the company. Next point out here would be building the linkages and mutuality between the jobs. If there is a certain gap that needs to be filled, the organization must take care of that, and it must be determined that how that linkage and mutuality can be built between the jobs. So out here we come to the end of the task analysis. So in a nutshell, we have understood that what is a task analysis, wherein we have learned why the task has to be classified or has to be divided into the various segments for performing it in a proper manner. Maybe if there is a discrepancy in performing it, one will not be able to perform as per the given performance criteria. So that's why the organization determines the required competences required for a certain job. And the various definitions that we have discussed during our session was of the Tavi Stocks School as well as of Mr. Stephen, wherein we have learned about how the analysis has to be undertaken only after understanding the particular organization context which is involved. The job that was broken down into the specific activities, as well as to sum up, I would like to quote here Mr. Stephen once again, wherein he has defined the task analysis as an element where the work needs to be divided.